Welcome back to my Colorado Mountain Garden and Homestead, and this is my second video for this new page, or I should say channel here on YouTube. And what you're seeing in front of you is I am lacto-fermenting some hot sauce. I've been working on my version of this green hot sauce, and the heat is from jalapenos mainly. Behind the scenes since last, oh gosh, I think it was the end of August. And so I've got several bottles going. I'm going to tell you what's in them, and then I'm going to zoom in on this one so that you can actually see the bubbles coming up as it lacto ferments, and I'll talk about my jars and things like that. But so for this one here, this is what I consider like my mother sauce. So that's where I start, and that contains not only the jalapenos, but some other green chili peppers such as poblano and Anaheims. It also has tomatillos, onions, and garlic in it. And this one here is how I cool it down. So if this ends up being too hot for the type of sauce I'm making, this is just, it has no jalapenos in it, but it has all the other ingredients. The tomatillas, onions. This one does not have garlic in it. I leave that plain because I have garlic on the end there. This is all jalapenos and a few tomatillos. And this is just garlic. This one doesn't have any onion in it. It's just jalapenos and a few tomatillos. This is garlic. It doesn't have any onions in it. It's straight garlic. For most of the vegetables that I lacto ferment, be it cabbage for sauerkraut, if I'm just lacto fermenting salsa with regular tomatoes and things like that, I use a 3% brine, and that is equivalent to about 1.5 tablespoons per cup of water. I do weigh my salt, as well as so should you, because if you use a coarser grind of salt, and you don't want to just use regular iodized table salt, you want to use like pickling salt, kosher salt, or sea salt. I use sea salt in these. A lot of times I use Himalayan pink. Sometimes I use the kosher salt. I don't have any kosher salt right now, so that's why I use the sea salt. My sea salt was a fine grind, so obviously if you had something that had a bigger grind on it, it may not be the same weight, tablespoon per tablespoon. But for fine grinds, it's about 1.5 tablespoons per cup of water. I don't like to overbrine my stuff because I can always add salt to it if I need to when I'm in the tasting process. Now, when I started all of these, the liquid was clear. The reason why you're starting to see the fluids get cloudy is because that's the yeast developing in it, and that's perfectly normal. What you don't want to see is fuzzy stuff growing on the top. I have fermenting lids. You don't have to have them, but I have had jars of sauerkraut blow open, so I bought a brining kit, or a fermenting kit, not a brining kit, and it came with 4 lids. I use all wide mouth jars because to get in there and get the stuff out and everything like that, it's better. My fermenting kit also came with glass weights. This here, the reason why it looks a little bit different is because I started having things float up and over the weight, so I had to also add a piece of plastic wrap down there to hold everything down. You want everything under that brine. That's how you keep the bacteria from growing. So all these other ones just have weights in them. And I'm going to go ahead while I finish talking about this. Again, you can weight it down with something else. It's just easier for me to weight it down with the, I'm going to kind of leave it there, and hopefully you'll see some bubbles going there. You can weight it down with a little glass dish, filled with brine. For things like sauerkraut, a lot of people will just use the leaves that come off the outside as long as they're clean and not wilted or anything like that. But the weights really aren't that expensive. I very rarely usually have 4 things going at a time, except for when I am making the salsa. Let's say, not salsa, the hot sauce. Let's say I wanted to make a red sauce too. Well, I'd have to wait till this one gets done. And today, I don't know what date. Alexa, what's today's date?
Today is Thursday, March 13th.
So it's the 13th of March. Alexa just told me. And I started this on the, let's look, March 8th. And this is going to go for about 2 weeks. And the reason why I like to ferment my stuff for 2 weeks is because I want all these flavors coming in through here. And one other thing that is also in here is salsa. See if I tap it, you can see the bubbles coming up. So that's all part of the fermenting process. When I take this out, I like to strain off all the brine, and then I will blend down this mother sauce first and taste it. Now, once you have your sauce, it's going to have to go into the refrigerator unless you make it shelf stable. And I'm going to do that by using vinegar. I will get this down to about a pH of 3 is where I like to be at. In order to be considered shelf stable, it has to be at least a pH of 4. I want it to go just a little bit farther. But on top of that, I'm also going to have to stop the lacto-fermenting process, which means I'm going to have to heat this for about 10 minutes at a simmer. So whatever I end up with, however much of any of the ingredients I add, if I add more garlic to it or whatever, it's all after I get it to taste. Then I'll add my vinegar, test my pH, and then I'm going to cook it down, and then I'll bottle it. And I'll come back and kind of show you those steps when it happens. But again, this has, another over a week to go. And I'm glad it's performing for you there. As you can see the bubbles coming up. The one that started bubbling last was just the one with the tomatillos and stuff in it. And I forgot to mention, I also have some cilantro in here. Garlic started bubbling pretty quick too. So this is what I'm making. And again, this is my recipe. There are, like everything else, many recipes already out on the internet. And I would pick one that sounds good to you. Start with that. And then change it for your taste. And, I made smaller batches at first, just using smaller jars until I got to where I liked mine. And then again, I can add jalapenos to kick that up from a mild to a medium to a hot. And usually in my super hot, I make my milds and mediums if I'm going to make all 3 flavors first. And then anything that's left that's in that jalapeno jar goes in. So I hope this was interesting to you. Please remember to resubscribe to this channel. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the videos, because that's the only way I know if I should kind of continue on that realm and maybe making more of those types of videos. All of the videos, and since this is more gardening, because usually I use my own tomatillos and peppers and garlic and onions and cilantro to make my hot sauce. But of course, you know, it's March and I don't have any of those. So I did purchase all organic products because when you're lacto fermenting, you don't want anything to mess with that ferment. So that I don't want any extra pesticides or that have been sprayed on it or waxes on the vegetables or anything like that. All of these vegetables got washed before I put them in the jars. The jars were sterilized. I can burp these at the top. Let's move it over here. So I can just tilt this to the side here and burp it if it needs to be burped. Or I can loosen the lid a little bit. There's different types. Some of them you squeeze the little fermenting tops. And again, it just depends on what you choose to buy. This just happened to be what I bought, and I've had it for more than 8 years. So that tells you how old it is. The tops, as long as these screw tops are okay, you can keep using them. If you're going to be putting this in the refrigerator or not making it shelf stable in some type of glass container, you'll want to use new lids. The new lids that go with the mason jars. I don't know if I have anything else I can tell you about this right now. We'll come back, like I said, in a little over a week, and I'll probably have it ground up, you know, at least drained off and ground up by then, so you can see what that looks like. And I hope you're having a wonderful day. We're supposed to get some snow. I don't think much. That's why the lighting in here isn't the best, because it's cloudy outside. Happy gardening.